Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome back. We had a music tech synth chat show last week, so yeah, we didn't see you last week.
That was really good as well, actually. I listened to that in the car yesterday. It was excellent stuff.
Yeah, Alex is a great guy, really interesting guy, and got some really,
it was really good.
Nice synth kit on there. So I'm still looking for any more guests that want to talk about their collections as well, so you can drop me a line in thislife.com if you wanted to share your stories on there. But yeah, so a lot it makes my room look underutilized with the amount of gear that he's got in there. Yeah, it was good fun that. So we've got a few bits and pieces I wanted to talk about today. We did have some build stuff. I saw Pete Brown pop up on one of my video feeds, Microsoft's Pete Brown, in his role as MIDI, the MIDI Commission, the MIDI Consortium, MIDI Group, I think, MIDI Association, that was the word.
MIDI Association, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, so he's talking about MIDI 2.0 and networking. I watched into video, so we'll talk about that as well. And I've posted a few more sound pack type stuff as well, so we can mention that as well. So how are things going with you?
Oh, good. Yeah, I've had some challenges though. I mean, I've been trying to upgrade my server I've got for my cameras, which now that sits in the house and has to be quiet. So it's in the one of the old silent PC type accessories. So it's remember the Tranquil brand way back, which so it's actually a Tranquil media center. It was sitting in the case. So passive case, just basically the board, the CPU is connected by a giant heat sink to the actual case, and then all the heat just goes passively out of it. And it works pretty well. I mean, it was coping really well with an i7 core CPU and an SSD in there and a couple of bits inside. In fact, I even had a hard drive in there at one point, and it was still working fine. But it was having problems with its power supply, and it was basically the internal power supply, and I couldn't get a replacement for it. Couldn't figure out how to do it. And I actually came across on eBay someone selling a modern version of what basically it's exactly the same case as the Tranquil PC, but done by a different brand, with a much more modern i7 in it. Because i7 doesn't. I mean, if you look at Core i7, you have to work out what generation it is, because new modern Core i7s are way faster than the i7 I had in there. And it had plenty of RAM in it, and it had an M2 onboard SSD. It was running Debian though, so I obviously have to upgrade it to Windows and copy stuff across. Anyway, got it. Runs really fast. Debian booted up really, really quickly on it. Looked great. So I thought, okay, I'll plug the SSD in, put the SSD inside, started and booted off that SSD into Windows, which worked first time. Windows 10 is really tolerant of hardware changes. It's amazing how
things are so much better than they used to be. Aren't they?
Yeah. It's just incredible how easy that is to just do that. And that was running fine, but obviously I wanted to get it onto this M2 SSD because it's a lot quicker SSD really than the one I had previously. And also my SSD has been used quite a bit because it's a camera server. I mean, you wouldn't normally recommend using an SSD as for something you write to regularly. And writing obviously video is something you write to quite a lot. But I know I was going to have to replace it at some point. I've got a replacement cycle I have on planned for the SSD, so I know I keep a track of it. I use Crystal Disk to keep like that track on the usage and when it's going to need replacing and all that. So but anyway, I wanted to replace it anyway, so I thought I'll get it onto this M2, much faster to drive, this Kingston Renegade M2 SSD, and started the copy, and everything seemed to be going normally. I was using one of the partition transfer cloning tools. There's quite a few about there, and I was using the mini tool one, and it seemed to work fine. Went to boot it and it wouldn't boot. And I looked at what had been copied and it hadn't actually copied half the stuff. And I've never seen that before. It's just really weird. Anyway, so and then I thought, I'll try again. So I tried to go in again. And halfway through it failed. And then I rebooted the system and the Kingston disk had completely disappeared. It wasn't showing up in the BIOS. It wasn't showing up in anything. It just wasn't there at all. So I switched it off and talked heck's happening. It went away for a while, came back and turned it back on. It was back. I started thinking, wonder if it's heat related, because this is obviously thermal. I wonder if putting the SSD in's got heat. So I started monitoring the heat signatures, and yeah, the heat was rising rapidly. It was going the Kingston disk, as it was doing the copy, was going up about a degree every minute. And as this was taking a good hour and a half to run through, you can see it was going to get into those 90 degrees to 120 degrees, but where it starts throttling. So that wasn't helping, because it was actually slowing down the transfer rate, which was making it get even hotter. And eventually it just got to the point where the thermal management cut in, and it said, "I'm not having any of this," and it basically stopped. So it actually completely vanished off the system. I'm not sure if that was the motherboard doing that or if it was the SSD doing it. I don't think SSD's got that protection in, but so it may have been the motherboard coming up. But anyway, it was a problem. So eventually I've solved this by opening up the box and pointing a massive fan at the box while it's doing the copy. So then it's got to the point of actually copying it across. And then I took the old SSD out and ran it, and it's still getting quite warm. It was getting into the 60 degrees. So it's not end of the world, but it's still potentially, it's sort of on that orange level on the monitoring. I mean, Kingston say you can get 75, 80, 90, and it's not too bad, but 90 on its throttling. But I still didn't like that, and I was wondering, is there anything I can do about this? And I actually found a trick which is mentioned in a couple of places to do with power management. And this is quite interesting. It apparently is a Windows bug almost, to do with power management, and it's to do with the let me see if I can find it actually, because I'm just trying to find it on here. It's to do with your power plans. If you look at your power plan and you edit the advanced settings on your power plan, you've then got PCI Express as one of the options. And if you're in there's a thing called link state power management. Now, if that's set to anything other than maximum power savings, then the Core 2 SSDs will heat up for some reason. Oh. If you have it on maximum power savings, they stay reasonably okay. I mean, it's still warm, but reasonably okay. So now I'm getting around 55, 56, which is lower than the threshold, and it's better than the 60s to 65, 70 I was getting before. So it's about 10 degrees less heat. But the key thing is it seems to be staying there. It's not going up and up and up as the things are happening. So that's a top tip. It does to actually get that to actually benefit. In this case, I always had to update the firmware on the SSD as well. To get the benefit from that. But once I've done that, that definitely made a difference. But why that would make difference to the temperature? I mean, obviously it might be going to sleep more, and that's usually less. But you think I'm doing tense work, it wouldn't make any difference. I mean, definitely. You'd also think that potentially could have an impact on performance, but it does seem to not have an impact on performance. So that's something I've discovered this week in trying to sort out that problem.
And how do you measure the temperatures in Windows?
So in Windows, there's a couple of ways of doing it. I mean, if you've got the really up-to-date Windows, you can actually see the temperature on the disk information in the disk manager. Windows 11 does that. Some of the Windows 10s don't have that. So what you can do is you can use a couple of tools. Kingston themselves have a health monitor for their SSD, which gives you the thing. But the one which most people use is a thing called Crystal Disk. And that gives you a very good look at what's actually happening on the device, and is it's pretty effective in terms of telling you what's happening with your
because that's drives. Because if you hadn't have looked for that, then if it'd been me, I wouldn't have looked at temperatures. I would have just assumed I've got a duff device.
Yes,
because it's dropping off, and then you got.
But I knew it had been working on the Debian, and that's why I wasn't so panicked about that. So let me see if I can actually show this without showing stuff I don't want to show. Let me share my screen and we can actually see this. So this is the server actually running here, and you can see that this is the Kingston disk, which is currently running about 57, which is about the peak it's been getting to recently. And I've actually put the old SSD back in at them to see if I can still manage the thermals with this change, even without the good airflow. And you can see that's happy with that. It's not near its thresholds. But this tool also tells you an awful lot more about the status of it, how many meters it got, the sort of the number of hours it's been running. And you can see that this one, which I had, is the older one, is at 75%. So I could have left that in there for a fair degree longer and not worried about it. But you can see the percentage lifetime usage is good. I mean, it's a little bit confusing, this, because it says percentage lifetime used there, and that's 75% is good. And this one is showing 100% lifetime use. And I know this is actually a new drive. It's actually not the percentage used; it's the percentage remaining. But
yes, yeah. So a new one is 100%, and a completely knackered, worn out one would be down to 0.
Yeah. So it's all showing all good. I mean, that starts showing orange if it starts getting a bit hot. But yeah, but it's interesting that change I made on the advanced settings had far more effect on the old drive than it did on the new drive. The old drive was also peaking at high 50s before, and it's now obviously gone down to 44. So, but then this one was in the 60s, 70s. So it's definitely made a difference. It's made a difference, so it's actually definitely worth doing. So yeah, happy about that.
Yeah,
so it's the first time I've ever had a PCIe 4 device as well, which is quite interesting. It's interesting because it's first time I haven't touched the insides of a computer for years.
Yeah,
it's only when you sort of get server stuff you actually start changing things now. Everybody uses laptops now for everything, so you don't. We were talking about this the other day because one of my relatives has got an old desktop which he's had for probably 8-9 years. And it's the disk drive, and it's definitely getting to end of life. And then we thought, what do we replace it with? Do we actually get another disk desktop, or do we just get another laptop? But I think he does want a desktop. So likes keyboards with travel. That's
Well, I did with the when I built my new music machine. Well, I bought the new my music machine, and I got the Dell desktop. So I decided that I don't need a laptop because it's wired into everything else in the room anyway. So I don't need to take it with me. I have got the Surface Laptop Studio, which has got the plugins on if I wanted to travel, but I very, very rarely do any other music composition in here. So it was worth going for the desktop because for the price I got a much better spec and I can swap out things and so it just works better. So there are some use cases still. I think if you're doing maybe music production, video production, maybe when you really want a machine that can render video quickly and that kind of thing, it's worth it. Because I noticed when I render a video, if I do it on the Laptop Studio, it's a lot slower than doing it on the new machine I've got. So, but I've not got that with me. But I do like having that machine. My son keeps saying you should be able you can play games on that, and I keep saying I don't want to play games on it. It all it does is music recording and some video editing, and that's it. That's what I want it for. So I keep it nice and clean. But yeah, I still not dived inside it. I mean, I could have built it and got all the components, and that's quite fun to do. But I think. If you people love that. My son did that with his machine a few years ago, but of course he's get to stage. I think he's 4 years old now, so it was expensive at the time when he built it, but it's now becoming sort of newer games are coming out that he's looking at upgrading, and he said, well, I was going to upgrade the graphics card, but if I upgrade graphics card I've got to update the processor, and if I update the processor I've got to update the motherboard. So basically he's going to do it all again. So but I'm not keeping up with that on the gaming. But yeah, it's fun building your own PCs. You do learn a lot from doing it, but it's not like it was in the good old days where you had to set your IRQs and your DMA channels and your jumper settings to get things to work. I mean, it used to be really difficult, wasn't it, to get sound card and your graphics card and your CD-ROM working all at the same time.
Well, even just putting two discs in the same computer, was master and slave and all that sort of stuff.
What did you had the IDE 1 and IDE 0, wasn't it? And IDE 1.
Yeah.
And then you had the 2 on that. So so did you have it one on IDE 0, one IDE 1, or did you have both on IDE 0? But you had your DVD drive or your CD drive. Yeah. So but then it's still quite complicated. If you're building your own machine now, you've got to get the compatibility of these things to work. So yeah, it's It's quite nice and fun, but it tends to be servers, isn't it, that you're diving into and doing that stuff. But even servers now, I mean, they're so small and slim, aren't they? I mean, I've got servers at work, little thin servers that do, we've got so much capacity compared to ones that were that big only a few years ago, or that big 20 years ago. So as everything shrinks down. Yeah, it's good fun to doing that. It's good fun doing and building your own solutions. So this is so you're storing all your camera stuff on the local server then.
Yeah, basically. So we don't push it up to the cloud. So we've got local connectivity, and it's all hardwired as well. So it's difficult to jam or anything like that if you wanted to. But yeah, and a lot of it's power over Ethernet cameras, and yeah, so it's quite interesting. So I mean, it's not just for security though. It's actually quite interesting for home automation. So I've got scripts that actually recognise me. I was using some machine learning stuff. I still hate the term AI for this large language model stuff. It's not AI, it's machine learning. It's chatbots. But I have got some pattern recognition stuff which actually recognises me. Doesn't actually recognise face, but it recognises my body shape and gait and stuff like that. So when I'm walking up the path to my office, it does things like open the blinds for me automatically. And getting it ready for me to go in. So I haven't got a smart lock on the door, but if I had, I could maybe even open the smart lock and do it based on that pattern, because it's pretty darn accurate, to be honest. It's going to be really, I think it's a 1 in 25 million chance of someone else being picked up by it, and it's a very simple model, and it runs on that camera server as well, using my head's gone blank on what it's called now. I'll find it immediately because it is really good. Code Project AI server. So I don't know if anybody's come across this, but the Code Project AI server is basically an open source AI server which does a lot of pretty impressive stuff. So you've got a whole load of modules in it you can use. So I've got some of them. Let me share my screen again. So I've got some running here. So I need to reinstall some of this because I've changed server, but it uses a serial another device to actually license it. But it's got things like face recognition, license plates recognition, and the object detector. This V5 is really impressive, but it can actually detect, and that's what I'm using for my gait recognition and stuff. You just have to build models for it, but you can build models in the same way, and you can install loads of different modules for it. There's whole loads of different things you can do. And object detection and stuff, and but it's also got things like some of the generative AI in there as well, so you can actually have your own AI stuff running locally, which is quite nice. So if you want a background remover, you don't have to upload it to anything. You can actually use your own one and just
so it runs a local machine. Yeah,
runs a local machine. You can do sentiment analysis, and that's the training thing you can do, which is quite useful. Now I've done my training. I don't need it installed, so that's why it's not installed anymore. But yeah. And you can get more of these, and there's people doing all sorts of things for it. So it's quite a powerful tooling.
Yeah, that's really good. That it's I think it's a case for having your own servers to run stuff. I don't have a server at all now, but so I haven't got that sort of central place to running things anymore. But yeah, I think it's a nice idea.
Yeah, and this shows the power of this new laptop, the new desktop or server, whatever. The old one was constantly running at 99% of CPU, and this is very, 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 very rarely peaking over 25%. So it's yes, definitely the difference between two. I think it's 4 generations apart on an i7. That's the only difference between it, but the performance is just incredible. And I'm running a lot on this server. So this isn't just my camera server; it's also my home automation server. So it's got lots of things running on there for, like Mosquito for the MQTT stuff is running on there. My tooling I have so I can interface between smart things and Lightwave is on there as well. Lots of bits and pieces running on there. Some custom stuff I did. monitoring temperatures and things. So yeah, it's a very much used server. So it was worth getting out the upgrade. I'm just going to see if I can restart this one, see if it's actually going to have an error or not. But yeah, this actually did start, so it's just must have got to the point of reinstalling now. I've got a failure on that one. Anyway, but it takes a bit of configuring. One of the nice things is the camera server I use, Blue Iris, actually does this installs Code Project for you and actually configures it for you. So if you want to use facial recognition or number plate recognition on that, you can just set it up in the software, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea though. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Getting all that stuff. So, do you run your other project, the smart dispenser system?
Yeah,
that runs all night.
That actually runs on its own thing. So basically, that is running on the little.
Oh right.
Chip. I mean that actually isn't my dispenser thing, but that's my presence monitor. That's detecting my Bluetooth tag I've got on my keys to say I'm actually in the room. And they're, as I said before, they're so incredibly cheap. I mean, even cheaper. I think we can get these for £4 at the moment, and just program up a little bit of program and a little bit of coding. But that's sending mosquito messages to that server, so it's actually it's the control area for it, and it works really, really well.
Yeah, that's a neat solution. That. Right, some other things. So you're running. If you're running the new versions of Windows, if you run it on the dev channel, you can get some more of the sort of AI stuff on there, can't you? They've put on. Now, my machine was on the dev channel, my other Surface, and I moved it to the Canary channel for the MIDI 2.0 stuff. But they've actually introduced some new search and with using the Copilot on there, but I haven't been able to try that yet because I haven't got a dev channel machine at the moment. But it looks quite interesting. So they're applying more of the sort of the AI stuff to Windows search, which is, I think, it's somewhere it could actually really benefit. So I think that's definitely worth checking that out. In terms of other things on builds, I haven't installed any of these builds at the moment because all my machines are on the other channels. But they've doing some improvements to the snapping in Windows 11, the context menus, so things look a little bit better. Which I could share that as well. Let me share my screen. Share that one. So yeah, you can hear the one in the beta channel. So you can see that when you do those sort of snap zoom things, the snap layouts, it looks a lot different now. You can sort of drag and drop them around and everything else, which looks quite nice. So that's in the new beta channels. And the one with the search, I should show that one. Yeah, there's the new search where it's up in the top corner, but it's using the Copilot Plus. It's for Copilot Plus machines, the search on there. So it's using natural language to search for documents and images in Explorer, which I think is probably one of the first time one of the first time really useful use cases for finding stuff. If you can search for something, an image that or a document you can't quite remember what it was called, but if you can just say it was a Word document I created last year that's got pictures in it of something, it's that kind of thing that you can do. I think that would be actually useful on there.
Yeah, I mean, search. I often talk about this large language models and the so-called AI has been two things really. They glorify chatbots and they glorify search engines, but they are really good at search engines. And as a natural language search engine, that's really one of the most powerful tools. And to actually bring that locally onto your device, that is good.
Yeah, and that's the key thing. If you've got a Copilot Plus PC, then these are local. Now, the reason why I moved my machine over to the Canary channel was for the MIDI 2.0 implementation in Windows 11. It was supposed to be in January, I think, but I don't think it's coming till next month now. So I'm still holding on in anticipation for that. Pete Brown, who came on the show a while ago and explained to us about MIDI 2.0 and network MIDI 2.0, which is particularly interesting. So that's where you're running MIDI over just standard networking protocols. At NAMM last week, which is the big sort of music conference, like CES for music stuff, Pete Brown was over at NAMM where he demonstrated. I won't play the video because it's not my content, this one, but I'll include a link to it. So Pete Brown demonstrated network MIDI 2.0 on Windows, and it's a really good video showing of it in use. And you talk about how they can actually you can run MIDI across a LAN cable, so you can have it across the other side of the room, the other side of the office or the studio. But also, I think they're talking about running it over wide area network as well. So that sounds really interesting. Being able to connect, so I can connect to your synth in your office there from this synth and control it over the network, which I think is really good. And then Pete did a great job explaining that a few weeks ago. It was on the show, but it's coming soon. So in the video, he said it's coming to Windows Insiders next month. So that's been February, as we record this at the end of January. So hopefully we'll see that. I think the multi-client is the thing that I'm quite interested to see. So things can be all connected to each other without being sort of locking it out for one one-to-one sort of devices. So yeah, interested to see that. I would quite like a MIDI mapper, so that I could say I want to control that synth over there from here, or I can control it from that one. And I kind of do that through the Cubase at the moment, but it'd be nice to have a sort of a Windows UI. But that'll be open to developers. All this is available. It's currently available on GitHub, but it's going to be baked into Windows as well. So it would be easy for developers to create these like MIDI utilities like that. So and the big guys, but even a small single developer could create these tools because they're all in there. So hope that sounds really interesting. Hopefully we'll see that next month as well. I don't know whether there was any announcements at the NAMM show. There's whole people doing whole podcasts on that, so we won't cover it too much. There was some interesting stuff there, and we got some of the exclusives on this from Dan Phillips from Korg a couple of weeks ago on the show. So a lot of the stuff that was announced at NAMM, especially the Korg stuff, Dan talked about on the show. But there's a rack version of the Korg multi-poly, which I've been playing with recently. So I've got the keyboard version. There's a rack version of that that's coming out soon, and the software version of that as well, which looks really good. So there was some nice stuff announced there, but those were the things that caught my eye. But of course, I've got those. I don't need to buy the rack version because I've got the full keyboard version anyway. So nothing on my list yet. But Dan did say in the end of the show we did a couple of weeks ago that his aim is to try and make sure there's something else that I'll want to buy before the end of the year. So we'll see. I'll try not to buy any more. Well, I have no room for any more since now. But I have been doing quite a bit on the multi-poly, and one thing I do really like about it is it's got this concept of, it's almost like a modular synth with different sort of plug-in components on there. So, and there's templates in there. So what I've done is I've created a video on how you can recreate these classic synths on the multi-poly. So if you've got a multi-poly, then you can follow on my video, and I've shown you how to create these sort of starting point, these templates. So then you can then go and build your own sounds. So if you want a mono-poly, or if you want a classic mini Moog sound or a Prophet 5, you can use the built-in templates and then build on top of that, because the envelopes are already modeled, and the filters and the response time, the VCAs and all that kind of thing. So so check out that video explaining how that works. And I've just about finished my first set of Prophet 5 sounds as well for the multi-poly. So I've actually modeled some of or recreated even the factory presets on the Prophet 5. So now I haven't got a Prophet 5 here, so I've done some audio on YouTube and listened to them. But also I've got one of the plugins from Cherry Audio, who have made their own virtual Prophet 5 as well, as they call it, the Prophet 10 or the Pro 10. And it's a really nice plugin. So I've got their plugin alongside the iSynth, and I've tried to recreate them on there. So there's a sound set from that coming soon as well. I also got a synth pack out this week, a free one, the Elka Synthex. You might remember the Elka Synthex, but it was the machine. It wasn't that. It's an Italian synth from 1981, not sort of that well known, I think, apart from the Jean-Michel Jarre laser harp sound that was on an Elka Synthex. So I was sent some samples of them actually. So I've recreated those, or brought those samples in. So for the mod wave, I've got those sounds. So they're a free download from digitallifestyle.com. And also, being one of my favorite groups, the other video that I did, Tangerine Dream, that made a little tutorial video on how to do Tangerine Dream type sounds on the multipoly, which is great for doing that kind of thing as well. So yeah, check that out. And I've actually got tickets to go and see Tangerine Dream in Manchester in the spring as well. So I'm dragging my wife along to it. I'm not sure what she expects, but yeah, it should be good.
I wish I could remember who said this, but it was one of the people who plays synths in a fairly prog rock band. I really can't remember who it is, but he basically said it's way better to be an aging keyboard player than it is an aging guitarist, because you get to sit down.
Yes, I like that. That's very true. Yeah, I think it should be good. I last saw Tangerine Dream in 1991. So it's been a while since I've seen them. And of course, none of the original members are here anymore, or in the group. Edgar Froese was the sort of last reigning original member who died in 2016. But the group the musicians that he was with at the time, they've continued, and it's the 50th anniversary of one of their classic albums, Phaedra, which is the pretty I wouldn't say it's psychedelic, but it's atmospheric, new agey, spacey kind of thing, 1975. Yeah, so that's gonna be quite crazy. It's definitely a sit down. It's not a stand on stand up and dancing. So it's very ethereal. But yeah, 50 years since that album, and that album made it into the top 10, I think, in the UK, because it was on Virgin Records at the time. So yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. I know some people. It's very much divides opinion. So some people said to me, well, it's just a cover band now because none of the original members are in it. But yeah, but it's a good. It's got the connection to the roots, and I quite like that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm going to enjoy that. What else so that was all the updates from me. Synthex and lots of Mobwave stuff on the channel recently. So those videos have been really popular, and and a good show last week with Vulture Culture as well. I really enjoyed doing that, in talking about his synths as well. What else did we have to share this week? I think that was everything from me from this week. Was there anything else from your side?
We can talk about home automation stuff. I've been getting a few bits through for review. I can't probably grab it. It's stuck outside the door, but I've got this rather cool rain and sun sensor, and it's cool because it entertains the kids, because it looks like a sunflower. It's actually got sort of like a ring around the outside, which is the solar sensor, and then it's got a rain sensor. Sorry, that's the rain sensor, and then in the middle it's got a solar sensor. So it does illumination and sunlight. And unlike most rain sensors, which just tell you it's raining, this actually tells you the intensity of the rain.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which was interesting this week when we had the storm come through, because it basically it has this count up on it, and it got to the top, and it said, and instead of just giving you a count, it just said lots.
Yeah,
there's lots of rain. But yeah, it was very impressive, I have to say. It was the way it worked, how quickly it was reacting to it, and it basically just sends a voltage out from the sensor to show sort of how much rain is falling. But I think it must do some sort of comparison, because after the rain, of course, it was still wet, but it did say it stopped raining.
So yes, it must be somehow getting the impact of it or something. Yeah.
Impact, well, also maybe change in how much. But yeah, I mean, it worked. It was quite impressively done, and remarkably cheap if you buy it from one of the Chinese suppliers, AliExpress or something like that. It's about £6 or £7 for this unit. But what's really interesting, it's solar powered, so it uses the sunlight sensor, the illuminance sensor, to power itself. And I thought it's not been very bright the last few weeks. I've now had it out there for 7 days, and it's actually gained voltage power on the battery rather than lost power. So it's definitely works being solar powered. So if you want some sort of sensor like that, that works really well. The other couple of things I've been getting is some really cool temperature sensors. I can show you these. So these are Zigbee devices. See that if I've got lined up. I can't see my own camera at the moment. So.
Yeah, just see that. Yeah.
You just do that. So this is a Zigbee device. But what's interesting is, and I haven't seen this before, it's AA battery powered. So rather than so you put 2 AA batteries in there, and they seem to last a really long time, and the accuracy on it is really good. And that was £2. I mean, it doesn't come with the batteries in it, but £2. So you can't argue with that. And that's a humidity and temperature sensor. So I've now put these all around the place to work to sort of allow me to more rationalize my heating in it, because I've got this panel behind me which is actually my heater. That heats up. It is a far infrared heater, and it heats things up the walls, the opposite wall, pretty quickly, and it stays quite warm for a long time. So it doesn't need to be on that much. And I've now got it so it takes the average of the room, and it does things like there's cold drafts at both ends of the room, because obviously you've got the glass doors, so insulating those is tricky. So the temperature drops at both ends of the room, but it's quite warm in the middle. And as you wait for the heat to dissipate, you can see the heat patterns, because I've got so many of these sensors. You can actually see how it moves around the room, and it knows now if certain. I've got a certain area in the room. If it drops below a certain temperature, turn the heating on. It'll just top it up, and the thermal patterns work really well. It's become a very sophisticated program, and that's actually using a bit of AI, or at least machine learning.
Yeah.
Because I've done a model basically of what the perfect temperature in the room is, and how it actually should maintain it to get to that first temperature, and it used that model to actually power it. So it's really quite clever, and that's also using presence sensing as well, because it's using the passive MM wave infrared sensors I've got now throughout the room. Like I don't know if I can stretch this one, but I can unplug it. So this is an end of wave sensors unit. This stuff used to be really expensive. And the car ones still are, which does proper sort of multi-room sensor. But this is just good enough. This basically tells you that someone's in the room, and it's not an infrared one, so it's not going to be. It detects heartbeats, so it's basically looking for a heartbeat, and that works really, really well. And that then they're now about £20, so you can get those off AliExpress. But if nobody's in the room, then the temperatures are controlled to drop. Don't do the temperature boost, so it keeps it at the steady temperature of around, and it doesn't. I mean, I found it uses far less electricity if I keep it around about 17 degrees. If I let it drop below that, it takes a lot more electricity to boost it up again. So 17 degrees is fine. And then when someone comes in the room, it just does a bit of boost on it to try and just keep them warmer. So they feel because this feels just like you've got the sun on your back when it's which is quite pleasant. So it's interesting just how a £2 piece of equipment can make all the difference. How you do it, and they're just quite nice that they sit. And I've also got some round ones as well, which have got which are easier to fit on the wall because they've got sticky pads on the back. But it's quite good, all this stuff which you can get now. I'm trying to find the box so I've got all the bits in. I've got a whole box of stuff around here somewhere. Can't see it at the moment. But yeah, so I've got that, a couple of other sensors as well. A dual contact sensor, which is really cheap. Again, sort of less than a tenner for a very good what seems to have a very long battery life, because the ones I use currently, which are the SmartThings traditional multi-sensors, the battery life on those is terrible. They only last about a week before they need batteries changing, so it gets really expensive with batteries. The other contact sensor, which I'm now running on my gate, so I can see if anybody's come through the gate at the front, the hand gate. That is now on its 6th week, and the battery's only gone down to 80%. So and considering that's transmitting a long distance, because that's sort of far away from the hub as I can get it. Oh, that's an interesting solution. So this is one of the challenges with Zigbee, is it's quite short range, and to get a signal from the gate to the router was challenging, and I've got nowhere I can plug power in. So normally what you do to repeat Zigbee, you just plug a Zigbee power socket in, because they all act as repeaters. But I haven't got anything like anywhere I can plug power in. But I did think I have got. If I've got one of these to hand, can't something. I don't think I can see one, but I've got a load of repeaters which came with my blinds, which are IKEA ones. So they're little tiny USB repeaters, a little plug-in. And I thought, well, I've got a solar battery pack, so I've just left a solar battery pack outside with the Zigbee repeater plugged into it.
Oh yeah.
Bit of tape around it to waterproof it, and that's doing the job of acting as the repeater for that. And that's been running on solar battery for weeks, and it's not even dropped a little bit of juice. So yeah, it's quite impressive what you can do with a bit of ingenuity. And I know I'll probably put it in a waterproof box at some point and just do it a bit more permanently. But it's just more of an experiment at the moment too, because I want to go. I'm trying to play around with bits from outdoor use of smart homes, because I think I've cracked the indoors. Basically everything's working out I want to do indoors now. But the idea of doing some stuff outside is quite interesting, and doing some stuff around the weather. So like temperature sensors outside is in something I want to try and do, so I can actually see what the weather's trending towards. If it's starting to go down in temperature, then I could probably boost the heat up a bit earlier and things like that. So add a bit more to that model, put it in place. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the benefit of modeling, using the ML type machine language type stuff to model events and your routine and how you can pick up and stuff. And and it's even it's telling me now it's time to go and get a cup of tea, because I usually go and get a cup of tea at certain times of the day, and it's sort of starting to put the building into the mode I go to sort of cool down a bit, because I'm going to be out of it for a while I go and get a cup of tea. And so it's almost like a reinforcement loop there, because the temperature drops, so I go and get a cup of tea.
yeah
But it's learned my habits basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's like you said, they're not dear, the sensors.
No, it's crazy what you can get. I mean, I was saying about the new Akara screen. Let me see if I can find it, which I think is amazing. So they launched a whole range of new products this year, which are really cool. If people don't know who Akara are, you've heard of Xiaomi, the massive Chinese. Akara is basically their European arm, and they are quite impressive, some of the stuff they got. So they've got this new range of panels. Now they're not cheap, but they are quite impressive. So again, I'll share my screen. So you've got the display switch, which is quite an interesting concept. So this is basically like a power switch, which has got a display on it.
Oh yeah.
And you can even clock on it or whatever, but it just replaces your power switch. And it's 2-channel switch, 4 buttons on it, but it's got things like it's got Zigbee, it's got Matter over bridge support, so you can if you use one of their bridges, you can then link this into any system which uses Matter, and that's like smart things, Alexa, all those can be used. It's a Zigbee repeater, so it's got all this sort of really cool stuff in it, but it's also proximity activated, so you can actually tell it to turn the screen on if you get close to it and turn it off otherwise, no power, or you can use automation based on that, so you can use the proximity detector for it. It's power monitoring. It's got loads of stuff built into it, all in a really nice little box.
No, that's
and you can do that. But then they've also got some other new bits as well. So obviously got standard bulbs and light switches, which all new nice stuff. But these two hubs this is a Zigbee hub, stroke hub, Kara smart home hub. Now Kara's automations are really good. I was actually in my previous building, I used the Xiaomi automations to do a lot of my home automation, and that's basically using the same stuff. And this thing is just really impressive. Again, it's a Matter Bridge Zigbee hub. It's got the ability to stream from their cameras, all on this one little panel you can put up on the wall. It's got mics in it for voice control. You can customize it how you want to use it. So you can basically set up some really nice displays, and it's quite a nice little size box. Yeah, so you can do all sorts of really customizable displays on it. It's that sort of control panel where people want it. But I love the fact it's not just a control panel; it's the hub as well. So it's got all that Matter stuff in, and all the really good stuff they've built in it, and it's got the built-in power controller as well. So it can replace one of your light switches. So you can have this in place of a light switch, and use it as your light switch effectively. So it's got basically everything you could want on it. It's very nicely done. And then my favorite one they've just added, and this is what I was really wanted, is this touchscreen dial. Now I think this is a bit pricey because I've got something I can build one of these, a dial like this from using the M5 stack stuff, but it is beautiful. And again, it's got so much built into it. It's a dial, but it's got haptic feedback on the dial. You can change the look and feel of it. It works with Wi-Fi. It's got loads of all sorts of clever stuff on it, and it looks beautiful. So you can have this watch and this clock face on you. So you basically make it look like a clock.
I like that. Yeah.
And it's got some really nice clock displays. So it's got all the sort of things you'd want in a device. It's got proximity detection. It's got humidity sensing, temperature sensing.
That is a really good idea. That.
Yeah, it just looks and you think about it as a thermostat. You could build your own thermostat, and it's one of the things they actually talk about using it for. So you can replace the thermostat with it, and and you can, when you touch around it, you feel happy, you feel the bite. So you basically spin your finger around the edge of it to actually control it. So it's it's very, very nicely done. And so the custom displays on it are some of them are quite beautiful.
That'd be quite neat if I could get like my hive temperature, my greenhouse temperature, and then I've got a thermometer in here as well, and I could get like a little display with the zone temperatures in there. Yeah, that'd be quite, and then boost the heating from there.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's that. I'll stop sharing again. But yeah, very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, I like that. So I have to have a look at that. There's always a lot to interesting things you can do, isn't it? You're playing with this, and I think it's always, as I've always said, if you come up with a problem or things you want to do, and then you learn it as you're back, sort of as you're trying to achieve that. So I always find when you're learning stuff like that, you need something that you're trying to achieve, and then you learn it as you're doing that. I've been doing a lot of stuff with Power Automate Desktop, and finding stuff that you need to do rather than just learning it for the sake of it is really good. So it's very powerful. I've got a love-hate relationship with that Power Automate Desktop now. Probably everybody else feels the same. You can have a routine that works, and it's all working, and then it'll just stop working one thing, and you don't quite know why, and you have to redo the way it's capturing that button or whatever. But yeah, it's quite good fun. But yeah, just having a need for that is for any of these projects is really good, and then that's what helps you sort of deliver it. Yeah, that's really good. So I think that's everything we've got time for this week. So what have you got on your EV channel?
So EV channel, I've just put out a really interesting video of the long wheelbase ID Buzz, which I had for a weekend. which had a bit of an adventure. I think I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I can't remember if I've spoken to you since I had that adventure. But basically, I ran out of power. Really unusual. I actually ran out of juice, and it was all down to my daughter. She was feeling cold in the back of the car, and I didn't realise she could reach the temperature controls. And she boosted them up somewhat, and you can hear the whole tale of that on there. I mean, it's more of it's definitely a story of charger anxiety rather than range anxiety. I think yes, the range dropped down. It was a bit unpredictable, but I could have planned better for it. But there, and it showed there was a bit of a desert of chargers on a particular stretch of the A1, which thankfully is going to change very shortly, and I'll have more on that later.
Oh yeah, it's that the anxiety. But if when someone else does it without you knowing, you can't plan for it. That's quite funny.
Yeah.
It's always the kid's fault.
Yeah, and it definitely was in this case. But it was, in some ways, it was designed for, because you shouldn't have controls that can be reached by a toddler in the back of a car, which can cause issues, and which you've got no. Well, you can put a parental lock on them, but the problem is it resets that parental lock every journey, so you have to keep remembering to put it on.
Oh, that's yeah, but they wouldn't do that like on the doors, do they? So why would they do that on? Yeah,
and heating control. So yeah, and it's not obvious they've done it either. So yeah, she had it up at 35 degrees, which is close to. and it's also a sign with electric vehicles. I say electric vehicles because people forget this also happens on petrol cars as well. If you turn the heating up, your economy goes down through the floor, because heating just takes that. I mean, admittedly on petrol cars, because you've got waste heat, but if you really want to boost it up, you have to still use the heating elements, and that will definitely have an effect on it'll be taking power from the car to recharge the battery. And on electric cars, it's one of the biggest causes of range loss. So yeah, watch your heating levels. You don't need them at high. Heated seats are the future.
Oh yeah, I like my heated seats.
Very economical way of heating your body as well.
Yeah. Well, that's the top tip there. That's worth it. And our top tip.
Yeah.
Use your heated seats and watch what your toddler's doing with your heating in the back of the car.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. It was great to catch up again. So next week we've got a music guest, and then I'm not sure the week after, but keep an eye on the channel, digitallifestyle.com, our YouTube channel, and all the other places. So until then, we'll see you soon.
Take care.